Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, April 8th. It is 9:40 US Central Time AM, so basically for somebody who's always late and always suffering from insomnia, if I'm streaming this early, it means I haven't been to sleep in probably 12 hours, if not 24 or more. So I figure with the new expansion that it might come out at noon today, probably not. It might come out on Tuesday, it might come out on Wednesday. This is happening, so I might as well work with it, stream now, and then fall asleep after the stream in about 3 hours. I guess that's the best thing we could do. There's another thing. Here we can see we have 350 gold daily quests, so we're not getting great daily quests. And the Tavern Brawl oddly didn't end as early as most Tavern Brawls do, it seems. Like it seems like the Tavern Brawl was still going as late as Saturday, if not Sunday. Meanwhile, I guess we really just need to play ranked. Just play some ranked druid. I'm doing an experiment today where I am going to I've notched up the speed on my mouse pointer. I've never done that before. I've always had it at just the Windows default in the middle, but quite frankly there's a lot of this that goes on where I pick up the mouse and have to move it because I don't have a big mouse pad or table in front of me. I probably should, but that's just not how it's set up. So I just have this kind of cool little mouse pad that's a piece of metal that has a speed side and a precision side. Is what it says it has. And it's cool looking and all, but it's only so big. So I'm trying to see if I can move a little bit less. Also, my shoulder hurts from poor positioning of the mouse and just overuse. So I'd like to try and rest that and see if I can get that to heal. Typically these days, when anything hurts on my body, it will stay in pain for 6 months or longer. That's probably mostly just old age, though.
Speak your peace.
So, as far as news, not a lot of news today, but we had a lot of games left over from Friday for some reason, and I went through all of them and only kept the ones that I thought were at least in part worth talking about, so we can try and go through that and have an accelerated experience today, which is always my ambition, is to instead of having 3 hours of playing Hearthstone, instead bringing it down to an hour and a half, but it never actually works that way. The daily quests are always too numerous. If the new expansion does come out tomorrow, we'll be streaming for several hours, just doing pack opening videos for the new expansion. Also, I finished Castlevania Lord of Shadow Mirror of Fate HD, which was a Nintendo DS game from a company called Mercury Stream that went on to later make Metroid Samus Returns. And boy, does that game feel like it was a rip-off of Metroid. It did not feel like it was a Castlevania game at all. I know Metroidvania as a concept, but when you have in a Castlevania game a like fast running unlock and magnetic rails that you're hanging from, I mean, it really felt like stuff directly from Metroid Prime, not stuff that would make sense otherwise, as far as being Castlevania related. But eventually I finished that. I had to go all the way through the third act, which didn't take as long as going through the first or second act, so I think it was slightly shorter, more straightforward wrap up of the story, to really not tell any real story of any interest, and to really not do much of anything at all. It was a pretty terrible game that could easily be skipped. But then I moved on to Lord of Shadow 2 Castlevania, which is a 3D open world game that is going to be kind of like, I think, Darksiders more than anything. But I haven't played enough of it. I've played only about an hour of that game so far, so
reporting for duty.
Give our minions taunt
For justice.
Job's done. But yeah, I'm trying to finish the Lord of Shadow series. There's a storyline DLC thing that apparently never goes on sale for $7.99 I don't own for that game. So I'm thinking I'll probably just stick with the what I own, play it without the DLC, and decide at the end whether I want to buy the DLC or not, which is probably no good way to do business, and that's generally why I try to
reporting for duty.
Have it set in such a way that I own all the DLC before I start playing a game, or all the storyline DLC stuff. There's several other pieces of DLC that would just be items and collectibles and things, and it's like different skins, things that don't matter. But I really don't have a consistent, solid policy and procedure that I go through when I install a game, and I probably should develop something to just make sure, hey, do I actually even own everything? The same is also true for Borderlands the pre-sequel. There's some like Slaughter Pit DLC I don't own, and I could buy the Handsome Jack collection, which would be about $5 for me, and it would give me a whole bunch of skins that I don't care about, and that one bit of actual content that I care about, and then I'll just own it all, I guess. That being said, I want to be careful. I know I often flex, and I don't really mean to. I'm just being honest when I say I have over 1,000 games on Steam. But that doesn't mean I should just buy things that I don't find value in. So if there are parts of a game that don't matter, I don't care about, if they're just skins, I should look at that and consider that and save every few pennies, particularly when you know, like I do, that there are games on Steam that are only about 59 cents when they're on sale, and maybe they're not the greatest games, but there's even a few out there that are actually worth owning when at those prices. So yeah, that's something I want to keep in mind. There's probably going to be a larger amount of news on Wednesday because we're starting early. Oops, I played wrong. Well, although it may not matter. Yeah, it didn't matter. So yeah, I'm not sure how well I can actually get used to the faster mouse cursors. I know you can definitely crank up the mouse cursor to move way too fast. There's a lot of Borderlands 3 news that we'll be talking about today. Ironically, there's a lot of people on YouTube talking about controversies and complaining about Borderlands 3 being an Epic Store exclusive, and seems 2K has no problem running ads for Borderlands 3 directly on those videos. So yeah, that's ironic somewhat. Let's see. Do this.
Reporting for duty.
I should have attacked first. Yeah. Totally should have attacked first. So TechRaptor has an article here. Former Valve developer says Steam was killing PC gaming. Now this is an interesting question as to how he gets to that point, but let's see. Richard Galdrick, which if somebody had a grievance against Valve for working at Valve, I can't really blame anybody for that. But I don't know how his argument is going to work. He's claimed that Steam platform was actually killing PC gaming. The claims came during a Twitter conversation with Epic founder Tim Sweeney. Okay, well, first of all, Tim Sweeney is currently seen as the person killing PC gaming by introducing yet another launcher and paying for exclusives and not competing on any kind of consumer-centric or consumer-centric features in their storefront. So this sounds like this was a circle jerk conversation, and I wish there was a different way to say that phrase, but I don't know a nicer, more sanitized way to make the point clear. It sounds like it was a couple people who are quite friendly in Twitter agreeing with each other. Tim Sweeney and Randy Pitchford. Tim Sweeney, the guy in charge of Epic, Randy Pitchford, the guy in charge of Gearbox. Both great examples of the kind of jerks that I would think need to be excised from the video game industry and the video game world. If we could just get rid of them and their bad policies, their bad... What? I guess this is gonna start back at 9 and I just have to wait for things to die. Interesting. Like, if Tim Sweeney was kicked out of Epic tomorrow, I think Epic could be run completely different and done a lot better. Arguably, I think also Steam could compete against the Epic Store a lot better if they partnered with / bought Unity and then made a very good offer to game developers to use Unity instead of Unreal and instead of the Source Engine, which, let's face it, the Source Engine has not gotten the work it needs to. Frankly, Valve would have to partner with Unreal because they couldn't be trusted to actually properly maintain and run Unreal otherwise. They'd probably just let it flounder. This article talks about spyware allegations in the Epic launcher. I think that mostly boils down to a general distrust that Tencent is a investor in the Epic as a company, and the fact that that they clearly admitted that the Epic Store, allegedly with the player's permission, reads the, albeit unencrypted, information that is stored from Steam to basically scrape your Steam friends list and your login information and stuff like that. Well, your user information, probably not your login. Let's see what this really thinks. Squeaks done. Like, the only argument I could see that Steam was destroying the PC gaming industry is almost an argument that Valve was destroying the mental health of video game developers inside of Valve. Here's the quote, though. Let's see. Steam was killing PC gaming. It was a 30% tax on the entire industry. It was unsustainable. You have no idea how profitable Steam was for Valve. It was a virtual printing press. It distorted the entire company. Epic is fixing this for all gamers. No, it's not. Because if you come into the Epic Store, if you're allowed into the Epic Store, and you're a nobody publisher, and the Epic Store doesn't want your game, and you're not using the Unreal Engine, you're still getting charged, I believe, exactly 30%. And 30% is industry standard as far as I can tell. 30% is what YouTube pays the average YouTuber as far as their cut on anything. 30% is a pretty good deal. Now, I'm not going to argue for a second that Valve could not lower the deal, and probably has lowered the deal for big AAA developers. But quite frankly, I would have been happy with if Valve had charged a lot more for a lot of the Steam Direct indie self-published developers. You are definitely ignoring something that is really, really important when you when you say it's a 30% tax. It's not a tax, first of all. Steam's not a government agency. It's a cut for being the hosting software and the slight advertiser of your games, being the storefront. But when you can go to Steam Direct for $100 flat and sell your game, and cut out a publisher who is charging you at least 50% of all your sales after you pay back every single penny they gave you to invest, they invested into your game, you are saving way more than 30%. Let's just run the numbers here. Let's say you make a medium-sized game for $5 million. Where did you get that $5 million to make the game? You could possibly have kickstarted it, but let's say you went the publishing route, which is what most people would have done. You go the publisher route. The publisher gives you $5 million to make the game. They probably spend another $10 million to advertise the game. And so before you even launch, you now owe the publisher $15 million. Okay, so let's say you through the life of that game sell $20 million worth of copies. Well, you've made at that point $5 million in profit. For not really having to invest any of your own money, instead using the publisher's money, but also having to invest your own time. and energy, although I guess you're getting paid for that in that $5 million. Well, what was the cut in this scenario if the total amount you made was $20 million? That would be your gross, I guess, income, 20 million on the game, and the publisher took 15 million of that 20 million. Your cut was not a 30% cut, it was a 25% cut going to you in the other direction. So you paid 75% of your money in that scenario, and this is probably not a stretch for what an average scenario on a video game is.
Reporting for duty.
So yeah, the publisher took 75% of your income in that idea, in that scenario. Or you go through Kickstarter, one of those Kickstarters or GoFundMes where you don't have to pay anything back. You get $5 million for your game, maybe $15 million for advertising it, and you pay $100 to Steam, and cut out the publisher that way. That is barely paying a 1% for the savings that you can do there. That's not to say that the Epic Store won't let independent people self-publish, but so far I'm not sure that has happened. I'm pretty sure everybody that has been allowed on the Epic Store has been handpicked, and in being handpicked they have been published games through publishers.
For justice.
Now, in the previous scenario, yes, you still would be paying 30% off your sales through Steam Direct to Valve. That's true. There's no way you're ever going to get around that unless you're just going to host the download files and all the payment processing and all of those things on your own website. And let's face it, if you are going to do sales on your own website and handle all the payment processing, the payment processors in the background are going to take at least 20% too. Well, maybe 10% if you get a really good deal. So in big business, everybody takes a cut. That's may not be the way it should work, but that's the way it does work. Everybody takes a cut. Everybody's got their hand in your pocket. Everybody's more than willing to lower your income. That doesn't inherently mean you can't run a business and be profitable. And PC gaming hasn't been at its best point so far. It's only getting better and better, at least until the Epic Store came around. PC gaming in the old days was kind of the joke, where it was just too many games were incompatible, or it required way too expensive of a piece of hardware to play the games, or there was a ton of console exclusives. Now there's basically no console exclusives of real mention. Everything comes out on PC. It is also worth mentioning that the Epic Store does not support the Epic Store does not support Mac OS at all, or Linux, so anybody trying to dip their toes in playing on those platforms are left out of luck.
Behold the might of Stormwind!
Unfortunately,
It is finished.
this kind of just ends in the same conversation that's been said 100 times. And here's some tinfoil hat thinking. If you've got your friend on Twitter, and Twitter in general is just people circle jerking each other around, so if you've got your friend on Twitter and he's saying nice things about the Epic Store and bad things about Steam, who's to say Epic didn't pay for that testimonial? I mean, if they're willing to pay for exclusives, why not pay for other things? This Twitter feud goes on, and there's several people that say what you're wrong is wrong, what you're saying is wrong, and that's that. But and I could go on further, but the best response I think here is someone responding. If you look at that guy's bio, he's a disgruntled ex-employee with an axe to grind. And yeah, that seems like that would be my first guess too. Totally believable that there would be disgruntled Valve employees out there. But Epic is certainly not the way. If you really were going towards anything, you should have pointed people to good old games,
To battle.
or some other service, some service that actually provides more value.
But we fight.
Let's see.
Speak your peace.
To battle.
Just keep on playing here.
The end is coming.
What might be an interesting thought problem or exercise would be to ask yourself, what is the things that you would like in, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6.
Repent.
To battle. To battle.
Like, what would be the things that would make you want to use the Epic Store? What could the Epic Store do to turn people around and offer a better service? Because let's face it, the Steam Store could use a lot of work. There's a lot of things, certainly, that I could say I would like magically fixed, but I cannot honestly explain how it would be fixed. I would like all the garbage on the Steam storefront magically fixed and gone, but I cannot tell you how that would happen, because my definition of garbage is going to be slightly different than everybody else's definition of garbage, and frankly, the discovery engine and the discovery queue for most people seems to be working perfectly fine. The only people I hear complaining about garbage on Steam are people that, like me, who look at every single game that comes out on Steam, which is not a typical experience.
Reporting for duty.
I would like a considerable amount of more organization as far as my game library. I would like better deals. If Valve was to lower its developer cut, game prices, I imagine, would stay the same price or maybe even go higher. So I don't know how consumer friendly or helpful that would be if prices were cheaper. I'd like some better organization in general. I'd like some better labeling of what the score, the overall score, and the all reviews score really means, because that is clearly a deceptive label at this point, considering Valve ignores reviews from people who didn't purchase the game on the Steam storefront, and people in any section that they time frame that they claim is a review bond time frame.
Reporting for duty.
Maybe the search engine and the discovery engine could use more work. Compared to something like Amazon.com, Steam does not offer a bright modern appearance. It has kind of a dark 90s bluish background appearance. It doesn't really offer a variety of things that they sell. Frankly, it's just games, software, and hardware on their store pages. So I don't know if maybe they've abandoned their video setup, but yeah, I don't know what else they could really offer that would make it worthwhile. In general, I like all software to probably go through Steam. It would be a lot easier and helpful if just every bit of software, if my open broadcast software and if Hearthstone and other things were integrated, that would be cool. A lot of the things that I'd like to see improved, make Steam a better service, would be back-end deals. Just have it so that Battle.net, Bethesda stuff comes over to Steam, and Uplay and EA Origin stop being a thing. But overall, Steam kind of just feels like a grocery store. As long as a grocery store has items on the shelf and it's generally clean and the service is, generally speaking, acceptable, you're not asking or looking for a lot, which is a great example of just how much the Epic Store is actually missing. The fact that that's not an option there. There could be a nice feature in Steam where I could send codes to people for games I already own. That, I think I'd appreciate that a little bit. Alright, let's hit this.
Reporting for duty.
Divine Shield or Taunt.
Time's up. Let's do this. For justice.
Okay, first game we have on Steam is a game called Exosphere, which is a little physics bouncing ball puzzle, which oddly seems to go from flat side-on 2D to 3D, which seems very odd. The new Castlevania Lord of Shadow has some oddness to this game. Is free to play, so I'm going to put on the followers. It has some oddness to it because it is this 3D kind of open world game, and right now I'm going through a building, and so I don't know how much at the very beginning, well, after the tutorial section, I don't know how much of the game will take place outside in the open world and how much will take place potentially in
for justice. Reporting for duty.
Inside buildings. If a lot of it takes place inside of buildings, then that means that that it probably won't have much of a Castlevania feel, since most Castlevania games were flat 2D platformers, and this would be much more horizontal than vertical. Metroid Prime would be the one 3D game that took the concept of a 2D platformer and tried to shift it, and did a pretty decent job to shift that concept into a modern 3D experience. Let's see. I want to do draw cards. Nope.
For justice.
Job done.
I'm almost out of cards.
So once I get further into that game, what I'll be looking for is if I double back in a lot of areas, and how much I'm going to be attacking and fighting enemies. They introduced like a stealth mechanic, which I'm like, boy, is that not what I think Castlevania games are. I don't think there's any stealth in Castlevania games. It's just whipping enemies and avoiding getting hit by enemies, usually. So it's definitely setting itself up to be a pretty weird game as far as just breaking the established genre that Castlevania games have been in. And maybe Metroidvania games should always be 2D or 2.5D and not move into a 3D world. Maybe that just ruins the idea. Moving on with the news, since I'm mostly just rambling today.
Reporting for duty.
How many cards could I draw, by the way? Seems like
Speak your peace.
pretty much as many as I'd want. There's one day much for that.
For justice.
There we go. So Gematsu has an article here. Million Arthur series producer Hiroki Iwano leaves Square Enix. So I don't know the Million Arthur series. I've never even heard of it. But Hiroaki Iwano, I guess is how you pronounce that. Where will he go next? This is the third person of note to get reported on who have left Square Enix in the past couple of months.
Free of that blasted tower.
So
Behold. Free of that
with the first person who left Square Enix. What is going over here? He's doing some weird shenanigans here. What does this do? Didn't return cast a spell that you cast a turn. Targets are randomized. This is the new card from the new expansion. So I have no idea what he's doing. He's just filling his deck with Deck of Wonder cards.
Behold.
I don't understand what the point of this is, though. So yeah, 3 major people have left Square Enix, particularly Square Enix Japan, and that implies to me what I already kind of knew and thought about Square Enix, is that there'd been many years of accusations of management interference in the company, and it seems like even the Japanese have had enough, and this very possibly is going to be the end of Square Enix, and we'll see a rising up of several new smaller companies in Japan. But one has to be careful here because this might also turn into... Ooh, geez, how many cards can you get in this? Well, in-turn effects trigger twice. Alright, well, let's do this. And this.
For justice.
This.
Reporting for duty.
That. And that.
Job done.
Yeah. So.
Whoops.
So this is just gonna draw all the cards. And we're just gonna see what happens here. This is an incredibly slow way to do this. Now, killing these guys isn't going to do anything. What we're looking for is things that would hit him like that and just win the game that way. So if this hits him, he's done. So this is just gonna keep on going. I can't influence any of this or do anything. But here's where this might also ruin him. If this doesn't kill me in the next 41 cards,
Behold! 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 Behold!
it's
Behold! Behold!
he hit a max limit, and because he hit that max limit, I don't think he can do any more.
For justice.
Alright, well, this
Reporting for duty.
and then we just need to play as many minions as possible.
Reporting for duty.
Out of my jungle!
Let's see.
May my ancestors walk with me.
So I could take 2 damage and then kill this too. The odds of me surviving to the next turn are kind of low. But I guess it really wouldn't matter.
Let me
Repent.
Well, I guess we should just probably leave this all where it is. So if this draws all of his cards, which I think he's kind of maxed out all the spell cards. Okay, so that's... I would have thought that would have drawn all his cards, and if that had drawn all his cards, that would have... that would have started to fatigue him. But I guess not. Interesting.
behold! Behold! Behold!
Okay. This...
Reporting for duty. For justice.
kill this, I guess.
Get down! Reporting for duty.
Play this.
The Frostwolves stand ready.
And yes, I guess we just leave everything where it is. this, I think I'm gonna lose here, but I don't know if this strategy that this guy's playing, which looks like a strategy we might see a lot of, is actually helping him. That sure doesn't feel like that was a well thought out one-turn kill scenario.
Behold! I'm almost out of cards.
Okay.
For justice.
This.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty.
We
Well played.
play this.
Behold the might of Stormwind!
Done.
Yeah, I lost. Okay. Well, let's move on then. Next we have a game on Steam called Trinity Town Monastery Martial Arts and Meditation, which seems like a word salad of search engine optimization. Again, I don't feel like anybody is actually an expert enough in VR to suggest doing meditation or anything in VR. This is $11.99, and it looks like it, to me, it's just an asset flip of a dungeon, and that is it. Where the martial arts or the monastery comes in for any of that, I have no idea. But yeah, that, yeah, just doesn't look good. So, with that, all of the daily quests were easily done in 2 games for the Americas account, so let's just switch over to the European account and launch. Next we have a game on Steam here called Aussie Battler Tanks, which looks like it's a tank battling game of no real quality or interest. I don't know what would have to be quality, or what the level of quality would have to be to make me want to play a tank game. This is $9.99. What languages is it? English and multiplayer only. I have no interest in that. Let's re-roll that. Destroy minions and draw cards. So all I have to do today is also just play ranked. And let's try the paladin and see if I can get up past rank 21. Let's see. I'm still wasting a ton of time playing this game on, I was calling it a Korean game, but I actually think it's a Japanese game called Destiny Child. The thing, I'm running out of things that I can really do with it, and I'm not running out of stamina fast enough. It feels like it might be a system that is specifically designed where you can't actually run out of stamina because you just always are getting enough XP to level up to the next level of experience, and then when you level up to the next level of experience, you get a reward of more stamina. Maybe I could find the most difficult and most expensive challenge I can take part in and lose at that over and over again, and maybe that would finally get rid of my stamina. That being said, the other thing that I have a slight concern here is I don't know how old this game is, and I don't know how much content it is, but if I go with it and stick with it for say 2-3 months and there's not new characters and new content being added on the regular, that would be the death kiss of it, the death knell. Because Destiny Child, its main draw is that it's a gacha game where you collect
we must cleanse the Sunwell.
Anime girls in moving live 2D animation. If those gacha girls, if those anime girls if there aren't any new ones, then it loses its whole reason. it loses a lot of its appeal.
The battle.
Attack here. I say all of this because there's this naval battle RPG called Azure Lane Crosswave that is teasing new anime girls for their game. So, although I guess that's a pretty different game, quite frankly, from a gacha game, a cell phone game. I should actually look on Steam and see if Destiny Child is actually on Steam. That it is on PC, but I don't know if it's on Steam. It would change a few things. If I could have it running on my PC, kind of like how I had time clickers running on my PC, and still even now, every now and then have time clickers running on my PC instead of my phone, it would at least not overheat my phone. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Borderlands series review bombs put Steam's anti-review bomb system to the test. Anti-review bomb. I think at this point you either put this in parentheses to call it the quote anti-review bomb, or you put another hyphen here because you're phrasing this all as one thing. But yeah, so
Let me think.
as I understand it, and maybe I'll be a little wrong about this, is Randy Pitchford kind of immediately complained and threatened to remove all of the Gearbox software from he didn't directly, but he implied that he might consider removing all of Gearbox software from Steam because people are review bombing the Borderlands games because of Borderlands 3 being an Epic Store exclusive. And like, Randy Pitchford was a big supporter of the Epic Store before Borderlands was announced as an Epic Store exclusive, so it seemed like his position on the issue was pretty clear. Did he actually exert influence to convince 2K, the publisher, that it should be an Epic Store exclusive? Only time will tell, and even then, maybe time won't actually tell. It may just never come out. The truth may never come out. But literally hours, maybe a day after Randy Pitchford said that, Valve kicked in their system that they had already talked about to discount all of the review bombs. So TechRaptor has an article here showing exactly what this is, and so this is what it looks like now. This whole section has an asterisk on it, and it's marked as white and just ignored, and they put whichever Borderlands game this was, probably Borderlands 1. No, okay, it's Borderlands 2. This is what it looks like minus off-topic reviews. Arguably, the phrasing here is a problem. Their determination or claim that this is an off-topic review is not accurate, particularly in Borderlands' case, in my opinion, because if you have your friends all on Steam, if you have 3 other games or more on Steam that are Borderlands themed, if your entire experience when you're playing Borderlands 3 on the Epic Store is going to be lesser, or if your entire experience of going back and playing Borderlands 2 is going to be lesser because you know you can only play Borderlands 3 on the Epic Store, that's not off topic. It's just not a direct criticism of that current game in the form of its video, its audio, its graphics, its gameplay mechanics, or anything like that. It's a criticism of how you're going to feel about the game, or how others might feel about a game, due to the sequel of the series being not on the same storefront. And clearly, enough people are concerned about this, so Valve's explanation or indication that off-topic review bombs are things that the general video game purchaser doesn't care about, that kind of falls out the window too, because review bombs would not exist if people were not upset about it. And so that's something. When we look at this marker here, you have over 1,000 here, over 500, and over 500 here. So let's just say slightly over 2,000 reviews. When you look over the lifetime, there's a few points, probably when DLC or patches came out, there were over 2,000 positive reviews. Otherwise, more people are upset about the Epic Store exclusivity than any of these other points of indication. And I would suspect, if I were to guess, that this was probably some bit of DLC, and this was probably some bit of DLC, and this was an announcement for Borderlands, Borderlands 3, and this was probably another announcement trailer or teaser trailer, and this was probably another announcement. And that's why people went back and reviewed it. That's my best guess. It might be that also some of those peaks were paid for by 2K or I'm gonna I could have won this turn. Oh man, I was one short. Now, looking back at this, sure, over the lifetime, most people are positive. But if Steam was going to be fair, let's look at why is this so high? Is this an off-topic review anti-bomb? Is this people reviewing the game because they're hyped for Borderlands 3? That also doesn't really affect the average game player's experience of Borderlands 2. Valve has never said that was a problem, and of course none of the game developers and publishers would say that that's a problem. If we were treating things fairly, if what was good for the goose was also good for the gander, there's definitely some spots in a lot of games reviews where ignoring the positive reviews would also be an accurate experience and helpful. In general, Valve really couldn't do anything else. They basically could have sat on their thumbs after Randy Pitchford threatened to pull all the games on the Steam storefront, but if they didn't do this before Monday it happened, before today it happened, there would have been a lot of articles saying, accusing Valve of not doing it, not using the new system that they had announced. The only thing Valve could have done is they could have said nothing and never announced the anti-review bomb system as a concept, and instead done nothing when Borderlands series and Gearbox games in general got review bombed. In the end,
The light protects me.
Job's done.
what Randy Pitchford is doing is not encouraging me or a lot of people who were only slightly disgruntled by the Epic Store exclusivity. It is shorter than the others by being only 6 months. I think also if they had released the remaster of Borderlands 1 a year ago, and then 6 months from this point, 6 months later after they released the remaster Borderlands 1, they released the remaster Borderlands 2 for 4K. They could have had people playing the game and being hyped about the game instead of having everything come out at the same press conference at the same time, which there was really no need to have 5 different Borderlands themed elements come out at the same time. But yeah, if you had committed a lot of people and they were already another 200 hours into playing Borderlands 1, that you'd convinced people like me to play Borderlands 1 again. Which, quite frankly, heck, with the new changes, if I had time, I would have done that. I certainly would have considered it. Then, by the time you had gotten around to announce that it was an Epic Store exclusive, there may have just been so much positive emotion built around experiencing Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 and Borderlands pre-sequel that there would have been a lot less anger.
Reporting for duty.
Or on the other hand, you can just do the normal thing that Randy Pitchford is incapable of doing, which is just staying quiet. He is his own worst enemy, quite frankly. And if he just had stuck with the right thing to say, whether it's true or not, that 2K is the publisher and makes all the publishing decisions. That's all you gotta say. You don't need to call people trolls. You don't need to insult your fan base, which this is exactly what we've seen on Steam before, is Twitter meltdowns. The only difference is there's really nobody at Gearbox to tell Randy Pitchford to shut up and stop talking, unfortunately, and or fire him.
The light protects me.
Let's see, well, I don't know what I want to do here. It would be nice, frankly. It would be a nice conclusive end to Randy Pitchford if he just had a Twitter meltdown and somehow was pushed out of his own company, but I don't see how that would happen. But yeah, attacking the fan base is not a smart move. Never a smart move. I'm sure we'll have a couple more Randy Borderlands stories. That's the main story that's happened so far. We have another game on Steam here called Virtual Arctic Expedition. It's a VR game for $5.99. Looks like it's just kind of underwater, looking at fish. Slightly different, I guess, than a lot of the other games where you just stand around doing nothing. This one you stand around underwater and kind of do nothing. 15-minute journey, it says, for $5.99. Requires VR. Yeah. Doesn't look particularly good either. Part of the problem I think you're going to always have with any kind of underwater experience is the fact that there's just there's never going to be enough light in an area for you. So yeah, anything underwater always looks too dark.
Let the pain speak to me.
Next we have a game on Steam called Warplanes World War II Dogfight, which looks slightly interesting. It's rated mostly positive. It's free to play though, with in-app purchases. But yeah, it doesn't look bad, so if that's something that interests you. I'm not sure
For justice.
that's something I could get my head into, frankly, but it is probably something I should try
Reporting for
Job's
duty.
done.
at some point, but I wouldn't want to play a free-to-play game. TechRaptor has an article. The BAFTA Game Awards 2019 winners are announced. God of War wins big. So let's see if we have a full list here. It says just go to the website to see all the winners. Okay. Let's do this.
Reporting for duty.
This.
Reporting for duty.
The light dims, but we fight.
The battle.
Let's just drive this guy crazy.
For justice.
Just draw.
Reporting for duty.
Just draw all the cards. So here's the BAFTA winners. Artistic Achievement, Return of Obra Dinn. Audio Achievement, God of War. Best Game, God of War. British Game, Forza Horizon 4. That's, I guess, a British-made game. The BAFTA is the British Arts and Film, Theatre and Arts, or the British Academy of Film, Theatre and Arts. Best Debut Game, Yoku's Island Express. Evolving Game, Fortnite. Boy, it seems like they made a category just for Fortnite there. Family is Nintendo Labo. Game Beyond Entertainment, My Child's Lebanese, or what? My Child Lebensborn. I've never even heard of that one. Game Design, Return of Obra Dinn. Game Innovation, Labo. Mobile game, a game called Florence. Multiplayer, A Way Out. I don't think A Way Out deserved any awards. Music, God of War. Narrative, God of War. Original property, Into the Breach. Performer is Jeremy Davies, I think from God of War. And the Double E Mobile Game of the Year, voted by the public, goes to Old School RuneScape.
I must move quickly.
So,
Will stand ready. The battle. The battle.
My hand is full.
The battle. The battle. The battle. For justice.
Job's done.
Reporting for duty.
My hand is full.
so for these winners for that year, feels like there was probably not not a lot of games in consideration there. God of War, I wouldn't say it's a bad game by any means.
Reporting for
It
duty.
just feels weird
Reporting
that it
for
was
duty.
not considered with any of the other 2018 games, or games that came out during
For
2018.
justice. Reporting for duty. Ungoro belongs to the Titan.
That being said, 2018 was also full of a lot of bad games, so if you did give a lot of awards to God of War, you're probably doing just fine. I can't think off the top of my head of anything that came out in 2018 that deserved to be mentioned that didn't happen, but that is also because we are 4 months into 2019 and there's so much has happened and so much news has happened that I couldn't tell you what happened last week. Right. Do this. And do this.
The Frog Wolves stand ready. The battle!
The light dims, but we
Next we have a game on Steam called Global Pixels, which looks like it's just a combination of a bunch of random 3D assets. Probably an Asteroids clone.
Your magic shall not
Yeah.
save you.
Seems like that's pretty much all it is. Early access for $4.89. Summon some Silverhand recruits, or summon some Silverhand recruits.
The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle!
Repent.
So I was
For justice.
had 2 extra damage over that. Win streak bonus. Maybe we should stick with the win streak bonus if we can get it while we're playing here. Wouldn't hurt me to go a little long. Yeah, even though I might be streaming an incredibly large amount of content, Hearthstone content this week, doesn't mean I'll actually be covering a lot of news. Next we have a game on Steam called Revenus Prologue 1. Looks like it's an RPG Maker horror game with dark screenshot syndrome. It's $4.99. That's the third part of the
I
EU.
will fight with honor.
Yeah, nothing here interests me. These are new games that came out, so I didn't filter through these. Next we have a game on Steam called Phantasmata, which looks like an RPG with MS Paint animation. I really can't call this an art style though, so like particularly this background, just how much pink is in that background does not scream to me an actual ability to draw. If I was just seeing this character and it stood very well off like a solid white background or a thick white line on the side, or a thick black background or a thick black inked line, and the backgrounds worked with this kind of animation, I might say, okay, that's an art style, that's intentional. But when I see something like this just looks like MS Paint. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm saying here is MS Paint. Early access game for $19.99, ridiculous. And a game like that,
the light dims,
you know,
we fight.
it might actually just be designed to look bad, but actually it's a good game. Unfortunately, if that's how you sell your game, if that's how you're gonna set the impression, most people, and me in particular, are not going to give it the time of day to find out that that's the case. You really can't do something like Frog Fractions, where there's a game that's good hidden inside of a bad game. Next we have a game called The Soul Hunter, which is a low-effort asset flip horror game for 99 cents. It's English and Chinese with Japanese subtitles, so yeah, this is a bad Chinese horror game.
Handle it!
Repent.
The battle!
I want to take this victory so I can continue the win streak if this guy's not going to play. Next we have a game on Steam called Doza 2. This is probably a low effort asset flip game trying to be search engine optimized for Dota 2. English is not supported, $1.19. Russian, yeah, I think this is probably a Russian troll game. Whatever that says, I have no idea.
I wonder.
Hit it very hard.
Job's done.
Next, we have a game on Steam called The Art of Horology. It says build a wristwatch. Interesting idea. I don't know if there's enough here visually for this to make sense. Like, if this had a lot more polish on this, and this was kind of a game where you're building a wristwatch and learning all the ideas of the elements of making a wristwatch or a clock in general, that'd be amazing. This is $8.99 and it just looks bad. It's probably barely a slideshow, if I were to guess. Probably just click forward and then you can't do anything else. Drag one piece in the general vicinity of where it should be.
I'm fast and furious!
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not sure I'm gonna get past all this garbage stuff that came out this Monday to get to anything worth mentioning on Steam. Next game we have is called Murder Machine Mini, which looks like a low effort asset flip first person shooter. It's $10.79 discounted. I see nothing interesting in it.
I wonder.
Next we have a game called The Hunt in the Forest. I believe there's a game called The Hunt already that's much better, and something called The Forest that's much better on Steam. So this again is low effort search engine optimization, just trying to create brand confusion. At a certain point, Valve is going to have to do something about this. It's 1% off for $1.97. I don't know what Valve can really do. Part of the problem with Valve is that it's trying to take this very libertarian, everybody can do whatever they want with no rules or regulations approach, and it just leaves the market open for manipulation and scams and cheating, which we see a lot of that. Next we have a TechRaptor article, Civ 5 environment skin mod created by Civ 6 art director. Interesting. So apparently the Civ 6 art director did not like the way the game looked, or Civ 5 looked, or maybe he figured he could just add a mod. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get around to playing any of the Civ games, but that's probably pretty interesting to people who do play the Civ games. And as long as I keep winning here, I might as well just ride this win streak bonus. It would be nice to get everything up to at least rank 15 on every account. Gamatsu has an article here, Mortal Kombat adds Katana. You can see Katana, her shoulders are showing, and a little bit of a boob window here. Let me watch this video and see what her clothes looks like. Otherwise, since that is the one story of any real interest at this point, is what are the costumes for all of the female characters in Mortal Kombat 11 going to be? They seem to be, so far, heavily committed to basically burqaing all the female characters while not changing the outfits of the male characters at all. Well, this trailer at the beginning is not proving itself to be helpful at all because it's just showing me live action. So the back of Katana has an X pattern of straps, so you can see her upper back, but her lower back is fully covered. She is covered from her bust all the way down to her toes in fabric. Otherwise, so yeah, extremely way overdressed for somebody who is going to be in a fight. Extremely overdressed for a Mortal Kombat character, and for a game that was in part rebelling and pushing the boundaries in video games. It's now pushing the boundaries back the other direction and moving towards puritanical views, which imagine if there's some church group out there of nervous mothers who are praising Mortal Kombat 11 for their
Job's done.
conservative appearances and outfits that they've decided to put the female characters in. I bet there might be an organization out there, a small group of people like that, which is ridiculous, to do a 180 on your series.
Speak your piece.
Basically completely lose the plot of what made Mortal Kombat sell and what Mortal Kombat was about the whole time. Moving on though, we have a game on Steam called Keeper's Dungeon, which is again just name confusion for Dungeon Keeper. This looks like it's a twin stick shooter game. It's not even a simulation. It's not even trying to be a Dungeon Keeper clone, it's just trying to confuse the name. 15% for $3.39. And 18 achievements, which is probably an achievement game too, if I was to guess. What's funny is I have not seen it be this bad before. Like,
What a bond.
it seems like some level of floodgates was opened to allow so many games with so many names that are so similar to pretty well-known big games. On the other hand, one could make an argument that the video game industry has just run out of new names. That's certainly also a possibility. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about just how the game Anthem's name really didn't mean anything. It was just randomly picked, and they're trying to think of why Anthem is called Anthem. The creators of Anthem were, and apparently, it's like, oh yeah, that is a pretty generic, uninformative name. I'd like to see AAA games in particular work in the opposite direction and not have generic names, and take it a little bit more seriously and have longer titles. Anyways, moving on though, TechRaptor has an article. The FTC Loot Box Workshop to discuss consumer issues occurs this August. This is something we've already slightly talked about. There's a web page. Apparently you can submit your own suggestions at lootboxworkshop@ftc.gov. It's a look into in-game transaction landscape, including the origins and evolution of loot boxes and their role in gameplay and digital marketplaces. do we need government action at this point through the loot boxes? I don't think so, honestly. I don't think that it's gotten anywhere as bad as like gambling in general is, and that is allowed certainly through lotteries and other things. But maybe a few laws would need to be put on the books. The other question to ask yourself, I guess, would be, is the current FTC administration really going to do anything, or are they just going to look into it and green light bad behaviors? Depends. It's very uncertain, and uncertainty is definitely what you don't want in government. The workshop will also be examining consumers' behavior, including child and adolescent behaviors in the context of video games and digital transactions, and a discussion of consumer awareness and education about in-game transactions. On one hand, I would love to see like hundreds if not thousands of terrible games disappear overnight from the Google Play Store and the iPhone App Store because they can no longer do in-game microtransactions. But I don't know if that destroys those stores as far as games, or if that rebirths them as a storefront to sell actual quality product.
The light dims, but we
The frost wolves stand ready.
Gematsu has an article here. An interactive dystopian graphic novel called Liberated is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC in 2019. This is a creepy looking picture. There's, I guess, some more creepy looking trailer I can watch and see if I can get an idea what it's about. Not really. It seems like it might be a black and white only game with 2.5D platforming. So I guess we'll learn more about Liberated when it gets closer to actually being released. With that, there are no more European daily quests, and man, it feels like we're just burning through the daily quests. I don't know if I got really lucky on what the quests were, or what. Maybe time flies when you haven't slept. So we're moving over to the Asian account. TechRaptor has an article here, dangerous driving review, bump in the road.
Busy night.
So let's see, that probably sounds like they didn't like it. Yeah, they gave it a 6.5. Summary, dangerous driving marks Threefield Entertainment's first attempt at making a fully fledged spiritual successor to Burnout. Its thrilling speeds and excitement and exciting action scratch the itch, but the tight budget and myriad of technical issues and bare bones content hold it back from being truly special. Pros, fast and exciting arcade racing almost feels like a new Burnout game. Cons, bare bones, floaty and unsatisfying physics, subpar visuals, and technical issues. And see, if you had worked on Burnout before, I don't know why you would have physics and technical issues. Frankly, it just seems like that would just be skills you had already learned. So I'm gonna re-roll this at the risk of not finding anybody to challenge. So I may have to spend some extra time and challenge a friend. Meanwhile, I need to play mage cards and secrets. So let's start doing that. GameIndustry.biz has this interesting article. It's probably kind of a self-promoting article.
You asked for it.
Quote, games that have succeeded in Turkey are all localized. That's hands down, end quote. Vardia, co-founder of Vardia is the name of the company. Co-founder, this guy's name is Marek Irurek, I guess is how I'd pronounce that, on the untapped opportunity in Turkey's population of 30 million gamers. Alright, so here's what I know about Turkey. It's run by a dictator who you can't call a dictator, or he'll try to have you killed, even if you don't live in Turkey. So, so start with that. Extremely controlling country. The idea that all games that are successful in an area have to be localized, it is probably true in almost every scenario. Like, a game is not going to be successful if it's not speaking the native language, no duh. But I think in this instance, what they mean by localized is closer to very much sanitized and censored to not offend the local, the government of Turkey. Do I think that there really is a video game market for Turkey? No, not really. It feels like it, in a lot of ways, it is just a smaller version of the same issue as with China. It's like, not until there's real freedom of thought can there be room for an entertainment industry that is built around people being able to share their thoughts and their opinions. Like, so that's what I generally know about Turkey, or what I take from this article, and I don't think there's any way you could convince me, if I was a video game company, to waste any to waste any time or energy trying to get sales in Turkey. I would do the bare minimum effort if I was running a video game company and said, yeah, whatever. It's just one of those Middle Eastern countries that we're never going to be able to do anything with, so we'll try, but we won't waste a lot of effort into it. So I wouldn't really localize it. I would say, how much would it cost to put the language in Turkish, and look at that price tag and probably say that's too expensive. The other part of that is, if you don't have games being developed in the country, which as far as I know there are no Turkish video games of any real note, if you don't have that as part of the elements, then video games probably are not even that important to that society or that big of a deal. I don't think the average Turkish citizen is at the luxury to be interested or focused on video games on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome to the show.
So I'm playing all these secrets. Wow. That's exactly what I needed to have happen. Next we have a game on Steam. I barely skimmed that article, by the way. I just spouted off my own opinion for full disclosure. This game called Second Coming. It looks slightly interesting. It says it's an RPG adventure game. Now it could be anything, could be nothing. You can see this video is just like slowly zooming out of this still. $8.99. I'll put this on the follow list. It probably is not a game that deserves to be purchased, but I would be willing to give it a try
Heating up.
if other people
Job done.
came out and said it was actually worth playing. It looks like it might be an XCOM style game. GameIndustry.biz has their yellow journalism spin on the Borderlands thing. Valve finally, like, they did it before 7 days had passed, at least. To say finally is completely yellow journalism and not flat language. Valve finally tackles review bombing as Borderlands 2 attacked over the Epic exclusive. Last week's work of user scores discounted under Steam's new off-topic review activity system. Which, yeah. So even they admit it's literally a week.
I wonder.
Which is probably just an indicator, frankly, that Valve will more likely than not always wait a week before they activate the off-topic thing. And it wouldn't be a bad idea if there kind of was a consistent time, just a cooling off period before things get flagged. Because there are going to be a lot of people that try to abuse the anti-review bombing system and claim that they're getting review bombed an hour after they get 10 or 20 negative reviews. So Valve should definitely take their time and ensure that there's enough thought put into what they're doing.
They'll never know what hit.
In all fairness, if they had taken 2 weeks, they would have gotten it. It would have been deserved that some people would have started complaining, writing articles about it. But it does kind of show that GameIndustry.biz, unfortunately, I've yet to find something to replace it. It is just a little too biased a news source, and it seems like either I didn't see that originally when I started watching, looking at reviews on GameIndustry.biz, or maybe their own opinion has shifted. So yeah, it's probably a new source I should drop or try to find a replacement for. I'm certainly trying to do that. Next we have a game on Steam called The Cinema Rosa, which looks like it's kind of a horror game where you're in a cinema and things are floating around and moving. It's probably like a walking simulator. Yeah, it says it's a classic adventure game, haunted in a haunted cinema, inspired by the Stanley Parable. Actually, I think I've seen a demo of this like 6 months to a year ago. $17.99 with a 10% discount. I'll put this on the follow list. This might not be much of a game though. If it's like the Stanley Parable, that wasn't really much of a game either.
We have many secrets.
Next we have a game on Steam called Hotel Mogul Las Vegas, which looks like it's just a SimCity game that I don't think would interest me. Frankly, if I was going to make a hotel mogul type game and it was Las Vegas, I would want to see a lot better graphics for what this is. This looks like it's a really, really old game, but it says it came out in 2011. It's $5.59.
What to do?
Yeah.
What to do?
It's not widescreen, so kind of on the grounds of not being widescreen at all in the first place. That loses my interest. That's over here. We have an article on Gamma Sutra, the complicated process of making a licensed video game. Let's see. Licensed video games don't usually succeed. This is a article about someone who worked on Blade 2. Blade 2, not even a successful movie. We have seen almost no licensed games in the latest generations, with the exception of like Lego games. Those still exist.
Job's done.
Yeah, I lost. Yeah, Lego games, things that are owned by Warner Brothers, and then there are licensed games by video game companies that are owned by Warner Brothers still exist. Batman games still exist. Spider-Man games was a licensed game, I suppose. But if it's a mediocre medium movie, there generally isn't a licensed game coming out these days. Or what we were seeing about a year ago is we were seeing a lot of VR experiences being offered instead of video games to promote movies. I think the movie scene in particular has not been great in the past couple of years. There was the Mummy reboot that was a licensed game, and that game came out like 6 months to a year after the Mummy movie came out and failed.
You asked for it.
But yeah, it's nowhere as bad as it used to be, where there was tons, if not hundreds, of Game Boy and mobile licensed games, and I think probably there's a decent number of licensed cell phone games that have been the replacements for things like that. So like the Harry Potter cell phone game that's terrible and full of microtransactions would be a licensed game. So yeah, all the cheap, low effort games have become cell phone games now. And yeah, that sucks, but I guess it keeps Steam a little bit cleaner. This next story is kind of surprising. We have a Gamatsu article. An otome visual novel called Shinigami to Shoujo is coming to the PS Vita in July in Japan. This is surprising because it is a game that is coming to the Vita now that the Vita is not being made, and I don't even think they're making the game cartridges, so some third party must be making the game cartridges. Otome, I think, really is like girls love visual novels, by the way. Just, it's probably the fact that it's a Vita is the important part though.
Job's done.
Well, we can definitely expect to hear probably no more announcements for anything coming out on the Vita, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, for as long as the Vita has lasted, if we still are getting announcements for games coming out on the Vita for the next 12 months, but it should be tapering off. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Epic Games' Tim Sweeney addresses the Chinese spyware rumor. I don't think it's really even worth mentioning. Until there is actual revelations that there actually is spyware at some local level in the Epic launcher. This is just more mudslinging than a valid accusation. Sure, on the back end, any service or software could be handing over customer data to any third party, but until there's evidence that that's happening, again, that's just baseless speculation. I again think if you want to hate the Epic Store, hate it because of its bad business practices. If you want to hate it, the Epic Store, for a different reason, hate it because of Tim Sweeney himself and his anti-consumer attitude and the Epic Store's anti-consumer attitude. It's way easier and better to state what is totally provable and obvious than to make accusations that can't be proved. Let's see. Maybe I should have done this first.
I don't have enough mana.
Job's done.
Gamma Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Square Enix, DeepMind, and more are hiring now. Square Enix wants an experienced game developer. Needs a couple of them since a couple have left. Disbelief in Cambridge, Massachusetts wants a junior programmer. Bradley University. I believe these are all the job listings that I've already talked about, so I'm just gonna scroll through these, yeah, instead of reading them out loud. Seems like the same article is getting published multiple times.
Welcome to the show.
Job's done.
Next, we have a game on Steam called The Sounds of Talent, K-pop adventure. I'm getting quiet, by the way, because my voice is like there's something in my throat, and I'm trying to rest it. This looks like a garbage animated low effort game, and I don't know what you mean by a K-pop adventure. 99 cents discounted. It's in English, Spanish, and Korean, which is a weird combination, certainly, of things. Yeah, that doesn't interest me, I imagine.
I'll never tell.
I wouldn't mind a game where K-pop did play a role, but really it should just play a role as this is the music in the game, and that should be about it. Yeah, I don't think there's much more you need to or should do with that idea.
To my side.
What's funny here is this story. GameIndustry.biz. Tencent stealth launches the international version of Wii Game Storefront. Wii Game X platform is available, but is still in the testing phase, the Chinese publisher confirmed. So, if Tencent was going 100% for the Epic Store, they really wouldn't have just released an international version of the China-based storefront that was the better or more used version over Steam, which has not enough market share in China as much as it probably deserves.
They'll never know what hit.
So yeah, I don't know why you would do that. If Tencent really was just thinking that the Epic Storefront was going to actually be the Tencent store, they should have simply said, okay, well, we're going to just have the Epic Store have all these Chinese games on it. If we start seeing that the Epic Store does have a absurdly large number of Chinese made games on the storefront, then there's an actual point of complaint. Meanwhile, as far as Wii game, nobody in their right mind would want to play it. Right now, Wii Game X has a catalog of 30 games. The vast majority are from Chinese developers. Let me see actually if I just click on it and just see if we can get a general idea of what's available here. Bunch of Chinese games. And My Time in Portia. This is Silence. This game is Icy. No, that's not Devotion. That would make no sense. Yeah, it seems like there's some DLC, and it also seems like there's very possibly a shopping cart there. Let's see what happens when I click English here.
I wonder.
Oh look, it's all in nice English when you click English. Download client, English. So I would say the Wii game already, Wii Game X already has more content on it than the Epic Store does. On the other hand, do you really want to do customer service with a Chinese company? Like, if you've never had a bad experience with ordering something from China, let me tell you, it's not gonna be good. Next we have a game on Steam called A Bunch of Asian Characters in Home. Looks like a low effort asset flip game. Just random things. 59 cents discounted. What languages? English and Chinese. Next we have a game on Steam called Magic Farm Fairylands Premium Edition, which this is just one of those resource management games, mostly about growing plants. $2.99 discounted. I don't know if you had a little girl that liked these kind of games, this might not be too terrible. It is widescreen and it does look like you're just farming. It's kind of a Farmville style game. Alright, let's do this. Darn it.
They'll never know what hit.
Job's done.
I was one short. Let's see if we could add some new friends while we're here. Since friend requests and challenge a friend. Still need to play some mage class cards. Next we have a game on Steam called Stop Cats, which looks like a terrible game. Just seems to be like a student project that probably would have deserved an F in 3D graphics. $1.39 discounted this game.
For Lordaeron.
You asked for it.
Let's see. This. I don't really need to play secrets too much now. Gematsu has an article. Rydo Gotoku Studio on Judgment localization and the new Yakuza starring Ichiban, Kasuga, and more. So this is an interview. Judgment, known as Judge Eyes in Japan, was the one that is in the process of recasting the main character because he was caught. He tested positive for cocaine. Let's see. Yeah, this is several just interviews that have been boiled down, interview questions from IGN. There's a new Yakuza game slightly in the works. Anything I want to do here? I guess not. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Wind Force. Seems like you're flying around on a dragon and riding around on dragons on the land or other animals on the land. This looks like a World of Warcraft clone. English language not supported, $10.65 discounted. Chinese, yeah. So this is just straight up a World of Warcraft clone. Honestly, to go back to the story talking about how I really am not interested in seeing the video game industry warmly embrace Turkey at the moment. The last thing I would want to see is like a dozen Turkish only language games showing up on Steam like we've seen happen for Chinese games ever since the freeze happened in China. Because for every one good Chinese game that's been put on Steam since the beginning of like Steam Direct, even, there's been a lot more that weren't good.
We have many secrets.
This, yes. TechRaptor has an article here. A Doom speedrun breaks a 20-year-old world record by 1 second. So, I guess there was probably, it was almost impossible to run through, to speedrun the first level in Doom any faster than already. Like they had already figured out all the triggers and all the tricks. And yeah, when you look at that, like that was a pretty fast speed run. So, and then there's like a explanation video to explain how this speed run was beaten. It's kind of like a non-story though. Like, I kind of feel like I just don't care for a Doom speedrun that's been on the books for 20 years. This is an interesting story. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Sold Out and Epic are offering up to $500,000 in the Unreal box offer. UK publisher is seeking games that feel fresh in a genre that isn't overcrowded as it teams up with the engine provider. So, seems like this is written that Sold Out is heading this attempt to fund indie titles. Meanwhile, almost certainly anything that gets this funding will be an Epic Store exclusive. That being said, this is the thing that people would be a lot happier about, is if Epic was funding the development of new games instead of paying for the exclusive rights of games that were already in development and had already announced that they were going to be on Steam or other platforms. Let's just do this again. There's not really a lot more to say. Gamma Sutra has the same article, but they write it in a different way. Valve silences Borderlands review bombers with off-topic fix.
You shall not
Which again is not an accurate description of the title.
I'll never tell.
See, it's important, I think, for people to kind of take note. If people are dancing on the grave of review bombers and saying that Valve has defeated them and they're done forever, you're kidding yourself, and you're writing far too biased of an article. And if you're writing an article saying Valve has done nothing, or Valve finally does something when it took them less than a week to actually act, you're writing far too biased an article also. Gamma Sutra has the same article. The FTC is holding a public workshop in August to discuss loot boxes. Alright. Let's challenge this guy to a standard play. Please accept. Okay. And I think I still need to play some mage cards, so we're good here. Next we have a game on Steam called A Game for You, Josh. Which looks like it's a low effort,
You asked for it.
maybe troll game. Yeah, it's a troll game. I think. $2.99. Yeah. Moving on to the next article. We really don't have too much left to even talk about.
None will survive.
TechRaptor has an article. You can play the Elder Scrolls Blades right now, apparently. Early access has been rolling up for the past weeks. Now Bethesda has announced that it's available for everyone to play as of today. The mobile title is available on iOS and Androids. You need a Bethesda account. I don't know if there's microtransactions or anything inside of it, though.
I wonder. Time runs out on me.
I think I saw a review of Elder Scrolls Blades, and they said it was basically just a Skinner box and designed to make you waste your time and potentially money. But I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't particularly strike me as a game that is something worth anyone's time, even if you are a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls series. Why care about Blades instead of playing Elder Scrolls Online or doing something else, or just playing more Skyrim, playing a new mod on Skyrim. Next we have a game on Steam called The Trial of the Towers, which looks like it might be a small experimental game of an adventure game. It's free, so it's a short and sweet game for an action RPG, single player boss rush. It's completely free. It was a pure passion project that made by us two creative minds. It has 5 achievements on it. Alright, well, go try out the Trial of the Two Towers if you're interested. If it's just a boss rush mode though, and this isn't really a student project, if this was a student project, I'd show it off as a student project. Because it probably is at that level of quality where I'd be okay with that as an idea. But what they're saying is this was just made by 2 people as a passion project, and then they're not making any money off of it. There's maybe they're going to charge you for the soundtrack to support them. See, I think if they labeled this as a student project, I'd be much happier than it was just. You're basically saying it was 2 guys who had nothing better to do with their life, so they decided to make a video game, and that does not sound good. And that's not something anybody wants to hear. It's disrespectful to the amount of effort and time and energy other people who make games put into making games to say, oh, this was just something we slapped up in a weekend and then we're gonna put it on Steam. If you don't care about it, why is it on Steam? Like, perhaps an argument could be made that Steam should not allow free games on their storefront, and it should just be a marketplace for purchasing things, and free games should just go to things like itch.io. We have Martin on the chat saying hi. Hi, Martin. Next game we have that came out on Steam is called Heroes of Fortuna. It's mostly positive already. Looks like it's kind of a Diablo-esque clone. Hack and slashing with maybe some card elements. It's early access, free to play. Does it have microtransactions in it? Not according to the tags. It's version 0.2.1, so pretty early access there. Yeah, nothing here looks particularly interesting enough that I'd put it in the follow list, though. Particularly since it's a free-to-play game. Next we have a game on Steam called Alice in Stardom, which is a poorly animated, what I assume is a Western visual novel that's free to play. Yep. Nothing else more to say about that game. So we're getting close if we're not into the games that I left over from Friday. So these were the games that deserved at least to be showed off a little bit. So that's a challenge of friends, and I need to play one more mage card, and I'm not gonna force that to happen with that guy who accepted my friendly challenge. Next we have a game on Steam called Survival Frenzy. This is obviously a PUBG clone. Doesn't look terrible, but honestly I don't think I'd ever actually play a PUBG. This is early access for $14.99. It already has in-game items and 38 achievements, so it's going all over the place. A whole bunch of Asian characters in the name, yet it only supports English, but a bunch of Asian characters in the description, so this is like a Chinese ripoff of PUBG, almost certainly. Next, we have a game on Steam called 3-on-3 Super Robot Hockey.
None will
This looks like it might be a
survive.
decent hockey game. I've yet to find any great hockey game. I'd like to find like one every 4 or 5 years, if there's even a reason to play one every 4 or 5 years. This is 30% off for
Time runs
$3.49.
out on me.
Whole bunch of languages. Claims it's E for everyone.
I'll never tell.
I'll put this on the fall list, and we'll see if 3-on-3 Super Robot Hockey is ever reviewed enough for me to make a decision about whether I want to really buy it. Next, we have a game on Steam called Curious Cases, which is tagged as a mystery puzzle game. Looks like it's probably a VR puzzle room, escape room style experience. It's $5.59, and it seems like you can play it on desktop or VR. 3 chapters. It's rated positively already, so I'm willing to put this on the follow list because it doesn't require VR, and there's a chance it might be good. Right, let's do this. Hit that and hit that. So, for the past couple of weeks, I've been slightly getting concerned about the fact that there hadn't been any lewd games allowed on the Steam storefront. It felt like maybe they were going back on their word and going to censor it. At this point, I've seen a few, so maybe I could make a wild speculation that maybe they're limiting the number of submissions that they approve, but they certainly aren't limiting it based on any quality factor or anything like that. It may just be just randomness, frankly. But a game did come out called Hentai Story, which is a slide puzzle with anime girls in their underwear, for 84 cents on Steam, and you can buy the wallpapers 18 plus for another $2.29. The animation still looks horrible and the gameplay still looks ridiculously terrible, but it's being allowed, and whoever is making those terrible slide puzzles or making games like Happy Anime Puzzles, which is the same idea for 89 cents, slide puzzles. This one also tags sexual content nudity, so I shouldn't have really shown it. We're gonna play one more game and then that's gonna be it for this stream, I think. Tech Raptor has a article here. Risk of Rain is a looting shooting good time, so they really like Risk of Rain 2. There's no review score here, though. I never felt like I would enjoy Risk of Rain 1, so I think I've probably just
You asked for it.
already missed any opportunity that I'd want to play Risk of Rain 2. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Woods VR Escape the Room, which makes no sense. How can it be a VR escape room if you're also in the woods? This looks like it is a asset flip game with some terrible title choice to confuse the issue. Requires VR. It's $2.99, which makes it incredibly cheap for a VR game. It's in a bundle of quite a few other games, which also implies that it's a low effort game usually, or a lot of times at least. That's definitely not something that should be on the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam called Blush Blush, which seems like it's a like guy dating simulator. Best of I can tell. Yeah. Early access, free to play. With 13 achievements. Nothing here looks interesting, even though it's rated very possible. I kind of am wondering if this might be Fruits Basket's clone. There's this anime called Fruits Baskets. Yeah, it is. It's basically the idea of Fruits Baskets. There's this family in Fruits Baskets where all the family is turned into the 12 animals of the zodiac, and whenever they are hugged or touched by anybody not in their family, they turn back into a they turn back into the animal. There's this poor girl who's the main character in Fruits Basket that seems to that gets pulled into this secret, and eventually she's, like, I think in the story, gonna fall in love with one of the characters. The original anime of Fruits Baskets only showed like the beginning of the manga. Now they're doing a full-on anime many years later to tell the whole story, and one assumes they will do that unless they somehow manage to run out of budget before they finish the story. It's a cool little romantic comedy anime show. I'd recommend it to anybody that's slightly interested in a very sweet, kind-hearted romantic comedy story. For the most part, it did have some dark aspects, but in general, that's not what it was about. In fact, the main character is remarkably positive. So I imagine it's somewhat that idea in video game form is what this is. Yeah. Otherwise, though, that game does not look interesting, so it's not going to the following list. That's a long explanation for a game I could have easily just ignored. Next we have a game on Steam called Blind Souls, which again feels like it's a Dark Souls reference, which kind of sucks because this looks really cool and this looks kind of cool, although these two pictures don't feel like they should be in the same game. And that looks cool, but again, that really doesn't feel like the same, they should be in the same game. So I imagine this is a walking simulator. That looks awful. This is a walking simulator with a bunch of asset flips in it, if I was to guess. Discounted at $5.39. I've been unsold on this game called Blind Souls. Let's go there. Next we have a game on Steam called Dance of Death, Duloc and Fae. So this looks pretty well animated, like a double A or single A 3D animation job. This looks like it's a modern version of a point-and-click adventure. It definitely has my interest because I'm in love with point-and-click adventures to my own detriment. This is 10% off for $26.99. I'm willing to put this on the follow list. I am definitely not willing to pay that much though. So this game would have to go on sale before I actually played it. And I would probably like to see if this developer has made anything else, and it seems like the answer to that is no. Right. I'm gonna lose. That's alright. We're almost done with all the news. Next we have a game on Steam called Fantasia of the Wind 2 with a bunch of Asian characters. Looks like it's some kind of RPG. Looks like it's probably just an RPG Maker RPG with a lot of animation over it too. English language not supported, $4.89 discounted. That's actually a little too cheap for an RPG game. Chinese only language. So, yeah. And I just have a small list here of other games, so we'll just take this. We have Easy Puzzle Animals, still a lot of low effort games like this coming out on Steam. This is $1.79 discounted. We have a game on Steam called the Infinite Art Museum, which seems like it's mostly just a white wall with some art that's either been licensed legally or just directly stolen and put in a VR environment. It's early access and requires VR, but it is free, so if you do have a VR headset, maybe you try this out. Maybe. I've seen several games like this on Steam though, and none of them really offer much on top of the basic things you'd assume it has. Next we have a game on Steam called Feather, which seems like a game where you fly around as a bird. I played a game called Air Memories, no, it was something called Memories of Air, where you were flying around, but you were doing literally nothing else but flying around, really. It looked a lot like this game. And maybe I could learn to like a game where you're just flying around, but I kind of would want a little bit more. Flying through circles is at least the beginning of a gameplay mechanic that slightly makes sense. I think a lot of people make the mistake of putting in flight as an ability in video games and spend so much time perfecting that they forget that if you can fly around in a game, it usually means that you're overpowered and you can't have any real gameplay mechanics or fights in it. This is $8.99 with a 10% discount, and apparently controls issues temporarily fixed, and a tutorial fix is coming. And Samurai Punk. Otherwise, they made the game The American Dream, which was a VR game where you're shooting guns. That was a bit of a troll game. They made the game Screen Cheat, which was a bit of a troll game. So I would say Samurai Punk, as a developer slash publisher, they're kind of trying to be a realistic AA, single A publisher, but so far they haven't had a breakout hit enough to really prove that they can make an actual good game. But I'll put that game Feather on the follow list and we'll see. Next we have a game called Urban Trial Playground. which is a Trials clone. It looks alright. It's rated mostly positively. I don't know why I'd want to play something that's a Trials clone instead of just playing Trials, though. This is $4.99. Doesn't seem like it has any in-game purchases or anything. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know why you'd want to play the clone instead of just playing Trials, which is the original. We may have talked about this before. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are under investigation for consumer rights violations. Multiple business practices of gaming grants giants called into question by the UK authority. I think the UK should probably just focus on Brexit. What are their accusations? Rollover contracts. Apparently they have a problem. Let's see. Yeah, it seems like it's rollover contracts. So contracts such as Xbox Live and such, where you're paying $60 a year and it's just automatically charging you and starting it over. That they're going to investigate whether people can easily cancel or get a refund. Easily being the key word there. But yeah, that's probably a bit of government overreach. TechRaptor has the same article. UK Competition and Marketing Authority investigates Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Nintendo being a Japanese company, Sony being a Japanese company, and Microsoft being a United States company. This is typical that a European country is trying to punish all the companies that are not inside of Europe for trumped up claims. Speaking of claims or trumped upness, or nope, I don't have a good transition for this next one. Gamasutra has an article. Sinran Kagura Peach Ball. Sinran Kagura Peach Ball is coming to the West this summer. This was the Sinran Kagura, which is ninja girls with big busts, anime girls. But this was the themed based on those characters pinball game. Although I think in the pinball game you can get the pinball to bounce into the giant versions of the girls. What is going to be edited out for the Western release, if anything, will be interesting. But I'll be interested in finding that out when it actually comes out. I imagine Censored Gaming on YouTube will certainly be able to tell if anything has been removed. I wouldn't be surprised if some of it is censored in some way, depending on what platform it comes out. I didn't even think it was going to come out to the West, though. I thought they had already said it wasn't at all. Next, we have a Gamasutra article. Nintendo is adding a VR modes to Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. This is with the Nintendo Labo VR headset. I kind of wonder if it's going to become very, very cheap to get the VR headset and use that. It probably shouldn't be cardboard, though, if that's what they're doing. But if that's just a default thing that is included in every Switch, that would be kind of interesting. TechRaptor has an article. Zenkai Zero, this RPG that has been talked about a lot and is soon to come out. Zenkai Zero Last Beginning carries out the Danganronpa torch. It seems like it's an RPG from the creators of Danganronpa. It seems weird. Certainly there's a whole age system to it, and you can have the characters at different ages, and that might affect your abilities in fights. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Boundary VR. What does this look like? These screenshots don't look bad, but this actual video does. It seems like you're boarding up a area and kind of doing a tower defense, fighting a bunch of zombies. Requires VR. It's $6.79 discounted, which is way too expensive. And yeah, the animation on that just looks terrible. And let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Snapchat announces a gaming platform, Snap Games, that will have in-app play. Who's to say though how many people would jump on that as a platform, or how many games will run on this? For instance, Tiny Royale is just a Battle Royale clone, and the rest of these seem to be pretty simplistic games based on HTML5, so yeah, they can't be that complicated. I'm not sure how much of Snapchat is used these days by kids. They were using it for a while, but they probably wised up and moved on to something else at this point. And I don't think it's grown exponentially and is the new Facebook or the new Twitter. I think what has really happened is people have just decided that they don't want Facebook or Twitter, and maybe a lot of people moved on to Instagram just to share pictures and not have comments happen. Next we have an article here from TechRaptor. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription will merge services for $14 a month. So this is Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Live, so you would be able to stream games and play games online, stream services like Netflix, and well, actually I think you don't even need Xbox Live to stream Netflix on them anymore. Anyways, it's Xbox Gold, whatever, which lets you play online, and Xbox Games Pass, which gives you a couple of free games each month. $14.99 a month though. You multiply that by 10 and you're talking $150 a year, plus a little bit more than $150 a year. That's a lot, but might be alright. Because if you're buying 3 games, you'd be spending every year, and Games Pass replaces those 3 games you buy, then you'd be saving money. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Where's my mouse cursor? FTC sets a date for the loot box workshop. So every single news source I followed has that. And I might as well mention this. Sneakily hidden under the new released, supposedly improved version of the 7th Guest is DLC that gives you the 7th Guest Legacy Edition, which was the original version that I had and ran through the Scum VM emulator. So if you are at the 7th Guest 25th Anniversary Edition, which is a mobile port, and you can see it's rated mixed, and then you come over here to this, you can get this for free, but you have to own the other version of the game, which I think I do. I think they did automatically translate people into owning the 25th edition version. And that puts me at the Humble Bundle store. And let's see if there's any new bundles. The Humble Monthly Bundle gives you Assassin's Creed Origins. The Hot Date Bundle ends in like one day. I already bought all those games. The Bandai Namco Bundle has 15 days left. Yeah. So we've gotten, I believe, every single daily quest done. It seems to me like I barely spent 3 hours on this, and boy did that time fly. I really have to say it feels like time flew like crazy today. I don't know if that's because I just am half asleep and I don't realize it, or maybe I'm wide awake, or maybe if I just start earlier in general, I'll be in a better position to stream. We got quiet certainly a lot of times. That's still something that's gonna happen. Quite frankly, I should have 2 or 3 other people talking, reading news, and switching between it, so there's no pauses or breaks in comments. I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed. There's nothing new news-wise. So we are done, and because, well, unfortunately, I guess, the Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 still has an Alt-Tab issue. So I can't Alt-Tab when that game is running, but it's not a big deal because I have to exit out anyways. So I can Alt-Tab, which means we can actually end with the screen the way I'd like it to be. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. Remember, possibly around noon tomorrow, the new expansion might come out. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good